Hey everyone, in this video I want to cover Salesloft Cadences, how they can help you with your prospecting and then just deal follow-up process, how to create them, some best practices, as well as just some useful navigation tips. So before I get to the cadences themselves, just I'll give you a brief synopsis of what a cadence is. A cadence is just a collection of multiple steps that you can predefine and bundle them together into what Salesloft calls a cadence, hence a cadence of different sales steps. Um, Things that can comprise a cadence will be things such as a manual email, an automated email, a LinkedIn message, a phone call, notes, a research step. So we'll dive into all of those in more detail. But the whole purpose of a cadence is meant for you to not let things slip through the cracks and just be as efficient as possible. If you really truly want to reach out to, say 20 or 30 new people a day while you're getting your book of business going or we're opening a new market, that compounds over time. So if you reach out to 20 people one day and then 20 the next and 20 the one after that, so on and so forth, you'll eventually get a cumulative list of 300 to 400 conversations that you're trying to keep going. And obviously, not everyone is going to reply, but you don't want to wait on a reply um, until you've reached back out to them. You have to be persistent and continue to reach out to them. And it's just not feasible to do that at that scale, one by one in your Gmail. Cadences is a good way for you to more effectively reach a broader audience, but still have a personal touch and not feel spammy. So, when in order to navigate to your cadences, my screen right now, I'm at the Salesloft homepage. The cadence section lives right under the homepage. It's displayed as a rocket ship in Salesloft. So if you click on that rocket ship icon, it'll take you to the cadence section of Salesloft. Just like all things in Salesloft, its default view when you click on it is going to be your personal set of either cadences, templates, or snippets. And then just to the right of it, you're going to have your team section, which is going to be a collection of cadences that either sales ops or the admins or marketing really have created and made public to the team, or they could also just be um, cadences that other team members have used and then since made available to the whole team rather than private to just themselves. I'm going to go to my personal cadences and then I'm going to delete this test one here and then go ahead and create another test one as well. So up here in the top right, you'll have create cadence. And then we can just name this cadence for whatever its purpose is going to be. So I'll call it um, new market outreach. And then maybe, for example, we were going to open up Detroit. I'll do DET. By default, you will be set as the owner, the daily people target. You don't have to worry about that field. Um, and then including an opt out link. This is an option that you have that you can do. You're It's not mandatory. So if you don't want them to see that opt out link option at the bottom, you can keep this unchecked. Um, this classification here, this is just for you to be able to further detail. Hey, is this for outbound? Just cold outbound? Is this related to responses for an inbound client, an event, or something else? So just allows you to classify these and prioritize them. You don't have to fill out these two things up here. What is important though are tags. So if this is new market outreach, we might want to do a new market tag. I also really enjoy seeing people tag the name, tag cadences, templates, things of that nature with the market that they're reaching out to, because that is a good way to filter. Tags are essentially our best way to filter in Salesloft. So if you're working a market, make sure that you tag all of your collateral for that market with that market's name so that you can easily find relatable templates, cadences, snippets to that market. And then another thing I will say as well are tagging personas if you're reaching out to a specific audience, such as regionals only or PMs or C-suites, executives, and personas of that like nature, because a lot of that messaging will differ from persona to persona. It doesn't mean that they have to, but if it does, and someone else is going to reach out to that persona, or you're just doing that same exercise 6 months later, rather than reinvent the wheel, you can just go ahead and search by tags, find that old content, maybe give it a quick refresh, and then you're on your way. Sharing type. So we have personal cadences and team cadences, like I showed earlier. Um, Due to the sharing settings, you will probably only have the ability to create a personal cadence. That's totally fine. You can also, if you want to allow others to be able to view your cadence and use and clone it as a good starting point, I urge you to do that and keep this box checked to allow other team members to view. This automation step here, you will not be able to change these. These are set default by myself. And then you have these 4 boxes here. Automatically remove people from this cadence if they reply to one of the emails. 9.5 times out of 10, you want that checked. Automatically remove them if their email bounces. You're pretty much always going to want to have that checked as well. And then automatically remove people if a meeting is booked from an email step. You're going to want to do that as well. And then reschedule steps due when a person is marked out of office. You will want to do that. And then just know Salesloft does actually pick up on out of office auto replies and will mark them as out of office. So Salesloft will actually take advantage or take care of that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and create a cadence. All right. Now, when starting off and creating your cadence, you have these 2 options here: start from scratch and start with framework. I'm going to click start with framework just to show you what they have pre-built out of the box. But there is a caveat here, and that is Salesloft is used a lot by high velocity outbound and inbound sales in the SaaS world. Companies that utilize Salesloft, or the majority of them, are used to reaching out to people a lot more frequently than we may in multifamily. So I will say some of these frameworks might be more aggressive than what you are used to. And because of that, I would say if you want to start with a framework, just know that you'll probably have to taper down the pure amount of outreach that there is. You don't necessarily have to. Like if it's just cold outreach, we all know it takes a certain number of steps before someone usually gets back to you. But I just wanted to put that out there up front. So I'll hit start with framework to show you what some of these look like. And so we have here an example of an inbound request. So day 1, we're going to send an automated email that provides your calendar link, and then follow up with a phone call. Pretty standard. Day 2, connect with them on LinkedIn. Day 3, give them a phone call and reply to that email. Day 5, send them another email and phone call. And just note that if you connect with this person or they reply, obviously none of the things after that occur. So like this sounds like a lot of communication, but just know that, hey, if they reply on day 1 or day 2, we don't have to worry about any of these things downstream. But this one in particular is meant to be more aggressive because it is an inbound and they're already showing that they're interested in, like Fetch in this example. And then we have go to like outbound prospecting, where we'll call on day one and then send a highly personalized email. I know people or our reps here at Fetch as of now don't use the phones that much. That is another thing that you'll see in a lot of these frameworks that may differ from how you choose to do some outbound outreach. That's totally fine. That's why these frameworks are exactly what they're called. They're frameworks. They're not, hey, you have to use this step. This is just a way for you to have some pre-built, framework in there so that you can fill in the gaps and change the content. All right. So um, take some time, look at some of these when you, as you're getting started here at Fetch, or just if you're not comfortable with Salesloft yet at all. This is a good place to start to look at some content that is available that has some best practices built in there. So I'm going to cancel this, and I am going to start from scratch to create one. And the first thing you have to do is create that first step. It's either going to be an email, a phone call, or something else. Those are the high, like top category buckets, and then they filter down from there. So if I know I'm going to do an email as my first step, I'm going to click email, and then I'm going to choose what day this is going to start. Usually it's number one. When it says automation, automate this step. Um, if you can comprise an email template that you are 100% fine sending out, that is automated, um, then you can click this automate this step. Um, for highly personalized ones, obviously we cannot do that because each email needs its own level of intimacy just put into it. However, if you're just saying something like hi, first name, obviously it'll put in their name, and then you can put in their company name. It'll add that level of detail and personalization to each one. But if you want to specifically call out um, certain things that pertain to them, or you're just going to do a high level of research, then you're obviously not going to want to automate this step. So I'm going to keep this blank for now, and and enabling multi-touch. What this is, it will allow you to do multiple steps on the same day. So if you know on day one you wanted to do both an email and a phone call, you would enable this multi-touch button. So I'll click next step here, and then it's going to ask me to put in a step here, or like the email subject. So I'm going to say highly personalized, and I'll do something like, hey there, and I'll put their first name in here. Wow, really butchered that one. So on and so forth. That is not. we're gonna just we're gonna move off from here. All right. So, and then you'll put your subject in here too. A little early in the morning for me, and I'm not a salesperson, so we're just gonna call it what it is, and we're gonna add this step. All right. So I have my email going out on day one. And this is going to be a manual email. So it is not going to automatically send this for me. But when it's time to send this email, like AKA it's due, it's going to pop up in my cadence queue, which I will show you in a little bit. So day one, we have our manual email going out. And then let's say I wanted to add another step, and I'm going to just send a follow-up email. And that's going to go out on day 4, so 3 days after that first email. And I am going to make this one a little bit more vague. So I'm going to actually automate it, and I'm going to send it specifically early in the morning at 8 a.m. And if you keep this unchecked, it will not send on Saturdays and Sundays. It will then send on the next business day, which is nice. And then you can also select the time zone as well. Then I'll hit next to create that content. And then in here, we'll call it first follow-up. And then for subject line, I'll just put and then what I can do here actually is I can insert a template that has already been created. Do I don't think that one's a good one. That one's got too much personalization. Okay, I think this one will be good, so I'm going to throw this one in there. And that does change the subject permanently. Don't love that. But you can change the template if you want to. Or you could always clone the template if needed, and make it your own template that's slightly different with a different subject line if you want to. Or I believe you might be able to copy everything. So I'm just going to hit add step here. All right, so day 4, that email is going to go out in an automated fashion. And as y'all can tell, this is a live presentation, so bear with me here. And then let's say a week after that initial touch point, we're going to give them a phone call. So on day 7, we're going to want to give them a phone call. And then you can put in here instructions if you want to make sure that you ask specific questions, or make sure that you explain to them certain things. Maybe you have not a call script per se, but just bullet point notes of things that you always want to make sure that you make clear to a prospect when you're calling them for the first time. When it comes to outbound just outreach, you can put those in the instructions here so that when you go to call, those instructions will pop up and you'll ensure that you don't miss any of those points. So you can just hit add step there. And then what we can do is hit, oh, actually, let me see. We're going to do an email on day 7 as well. And we'll hit create content. I'm going to insert this template I have, just saying, hey, just tried to give you a call. Obviously, you would want to have more information in here than just what I have in here. But I'm just going to add it for pure example purposes. So I'll click add step. And then, I don't know, let's say on day 12, we want to reach out on So say you wanted to reach out to them on Facebook. I know a lot of team members here are part of the Multifamily Insiders Facebook group and or LinkedIn page. Obviously, LinkedIn is a good resource as well. You can connect with them there. For whatever reason, there are just quite a few people that use Facebook instead of LinkedIn in this industry that I've seen. So just putting that option there. And so you can build out all of these steps. I think you understand the point of this. And so once your cadence is done, it'll automatically be saved. And what I was saying before, when it's not an automated step, such as a phone call or an email that is personalized, when you log into Salesloft every day, on your homepage, you have this cadences section that'll show you when steps are due. So if you enrolled someone in a cadence and day 1, they have an email that's supposed to go out, you will see it here and it'll simply say start email. If it's a template that most of it is predefined, most of it will be filled out for you then. You just have to put in some of your personalization steps. Or if it's automated, it won't even show up in here. It'll just go ahead and send it for you. And if it's a phone call, it'll just queue that up for you to make that phone call and then enter in some notes about it, whether or not they answered, if they connected, if you should still keep them in the cadence, things of that nature. And then really quick, just to add someone to a cadence, it's very easy to do. So I'm just going to wait for my people to load really quickly. And for example, I'm going to go to, oh, didn't mean to do that. Now, I don't have people in my name. Well, I do have a few, but since I'm not a sales rep, I don't actively pursue people from an outbound perspective. So what I'm going to do here on this person view is I'm going to change this from myself to all users. And then I can filter these views by tags themselves. So remember before I said tags are very useful because it is how we filter things in Salesloft. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. So if I want to say, does a person have the tag of, let's say, let me see if Detroit is an option in here. Let me see if anyone has that. All right, so we have all these people in Detroit. What we could do is we can select all. That's going to select 100 of this 130 people. because as you can see at the bottom here, it says there's 100 per page. So if I click those 100 people, I can hit add to cadence. It'll pop up. I can go to that cadence that I have, click it, and then simply enroll them in this cadence. And then all of those steps would then be due on my homepage. I'm not going to go ahead and flirt with making that mistake, but that's an easy way to add them in there. There's also some simple ways to do it in Salesforce as well, and I'll cover that in a separate video. So thank you. If you've been here for this whole video so far, I know I'm coming up at the 26-minute mark. I appreciate you bearing with me through this. Hopefully this has been helpful. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to the revenue operations team, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Thanks.